I am a writer because of Harry Bosch. In a previous video, I talked about how a specific passage written by the author John Straley was a great influence on me. Today, I want to talk about how a specific passage from a Micheal Connelly novel was also a great influence on me. 2005 was a chaotic year for me. 2 promising relationships ended, both because of my shortcomings. My career path had disappeared, and my anxiety and depression were taking turns being in charge. I didn't yet have a creative or an artistic outlet, and then I stumbled across this passage in a crime novel I'd been looking forward to reading. The fear, it was always there. Fear of rejection, fear of unrequited hope and love, fear of feelings still below the surface line in me. It was all mixed up in the blender and poured smooth as a milkshake into my cup until it was filled to the very edge. So full that if I were to move even one step, it would spill over the sides. Therefore, I couldn't move. I stayed paralyzed. I stayed home and lived out of a box. There's a lot of backstory about that passage from the 2003 novel Lost Light by Micheal Connelly, but I won't go into it. I'd rather have you just read the book. It would be several years before that passage affected me artistically, but on a personal level, that image of a milkshake poured so full to the brim, that delicateness, that grabbed me. Connelly didn't write, I was afraid, or I was paralyzed. No, he wrote about a milkshake. One step and it spills. That's exactly what the paralysis of anxiety and depression and repeated failure feel like. You can't move because everything will fall apart. Everything that you're trying to build is so delicately put together that one false step and it falls apart. Not only was that emotional passage set deeply within that novel, it was set deeply within the Harry Bosch series. It was in the 9th novel. By this point, I had already built up a long-term relationship with the detective Harry Bosch. I knew all about his code of everybody counts or nobody counts, and his fiery relationship with the Los Angeles Police Department. His relationship with Eleanor Wish was doomed from the start, but I followed it from the beginning in The Black Echo. Despite the end of that relationship, he carried a palpable yearning that belied this detective's toughness. Those words, thought by Harry Bosch in that passage, spoke to his deep, deep love for Eleanor Wish and the life that he wanted to live, but was afraid to reach out for. He was so afraid of making things worse, of spilling anything or everything, that he was afraid to move. When I read the novel, perhaps I was in a similar position, but I wasn't conscious enough to recognize it. Maybe I needed these things mirrored back at me indirectly so I could think and feel those things without fully grasping my own situation. I was in my 30s, afraid of failing again, ruining another relationship. The safest thing was to do nothing, stay in the box. I didn't connect it consciously at the time. I just knew this passage hit me hard. Like Harry was saying something that I couldn't say out loud or even admit to myself. It took years, really, to understand why. Before I could see, I was living out of a box. But with this novel, and this character, and this passage specifically, a seed was planted. It took years for me to be brave enough to live outside of the box that I had put myself in, yet that passage was an important part of my personal and creative development. The novel has other elements that engage me as a writer and an artist, even if I didn't recognize them at the time. It was the first Bosch novel to be written in the first person. All the others had been third person. That change had a drastic effect on me, opening up a whole new world of expression. It also had a strong musical connection. The accompanying jazz soundtrack was a first for me. It included a CD with the hardcover edition so that readers could listen along and hear the songs that were referenced in the story, and there's a lot. Jazz is a big part of Harry Bosch's life. That showed me that a writer's art can leave the page and transcend a single dimension. Connelly's writing highlighted that crime fiction can hold this kind of emotional weight. That a tough detective can feel this deeply, and that a writer can capture it this accurately. Maybe, if I'm lucky, somebody will see themselves reflected in my words the way that I saw myself reflected in Harry Bosch's thoughts. I may never match John Straley or Micheal Connelly in the way that they craft words or create pictures, but I'm going to continue to try. I'll try to reach for something true and meaningful, even if I fail. So, yes, between those two writers, you're stuck with me.